ensayas rápido, no te sabes poner el pie. Lo ensayas rápido, no te sabes poner el pie.
Welcome back to Civil Discourse Now. I'm Mark Small.
And I'm Paul Ogden.
Our guest today is Tammy Moon. She's CEO and President of Bully Prevention Alliance. Tammy, you were giving this and we're shooting today at 10:01. It is a restaurant bar in Broad Ripple. It's on the north side of Indianapolis. It's 1001 Broad Ripple Avenue. Really spiffy place. It's a beautiful day out. Get a chance, come by. They got good food here. It's a good place. You were talking about, right before we left, what people can do.
I think you're talking about federal statutes.
Yes, we were talking about the federal statutes is what we were talking about.
Yeah, because we're talking about bullying, and we were talking about federal statutes and due process.
Right. And that's something that, one of the things that I wanted to mention that we were getting to was, if you go to the organization's Facebook page, which is facebook.com/BP Indy Inc. And if you look up there, I have posted a link. It's on the top post. It was the most recent one. It's from the Indiana Department of Education. It says Special Education Due Process. That link is something that parents who have children who have an IEP or
an individual
education plan, or even a behavioral modification plan, because we have some that don't have an IEP but have a behavioral modification plan or have what is called a 504, and those are all fall under a special education curriculum type program, and special rules and regulations are pertaining to that. So we've had a lot of people, I've had a lot of complaints that have come in through me, and one of the most common denominators that I found is here in Indiana anyway, is that many of these kids have an individual education plan, a behavioral modification plan, or a 501 or a 504.
The kids who are bullying or being bullied, or both?
Well, the kids that are being bullied, and the victims. You know, and the victims, I use victims as being both the bully and the one being bullied, because your victim is oftentimes becomes a bully. I mean, kind of goes along with that example I gave earlier of somebody that gets cheated on and all this other stuff and wants to retaliate. That person is actually the victim of something that happened to them. So, you know, you look at that as an adult, we want to retaliate, we want to get back because we're angry. It's no different than for kids, you know, and that's, so you have that, and I mean, I have one particular instance that this parent whose child has an IEP or was forced into a behavior modification plan by the school without her permission, and her child had been bullied numerous times. She has over 80 reports of the situation. Yeah, over 80 reports. They forced her child into behavior modification plan. And so in instances where you're not getting action and you have, you know, a behavior modification plan, an individual education plan, or a 504, and you're not getting anywhere and the communication isn't being done, you know, my suggestion is go to the Facebook page, you know, for the organization, take that top link, save it, bookmark it, everything else in between, because that page takes you to a link from the Department of Education that talks about special education due process. And in that link, you can actually file a complaint, request a participation in a mediation, and request a due process hearing. And I'm going to let you two, if you wouldn't mind, explain what that due process hearing is, so I don't get in trouble for UPL.
I don't know. I don't.
Or what is in normal
due process? Due process means that you are being provided all those protections that are guaranteed by the Constitution of the United States and through any applicable statutes. And that means, and that varies upon the proceeding. But in terms of civil rights, you're being treated the same as everybody else.
Right.
That's equal protection under the law.
Right.
And due process means it's not just a technicality. It means that they are following the procedures they're supposed to. If you're entitled to a hearing, that a hearing can be defined in certain ways, but usually means that you get to present evidence, you get to present your side, you get to see what evidence the other side has, and there's a decision maker there, or a fact finder, and they're supposed to be impartial. Those are all things that are involved with due process.
Right. And that makes that page very critical for many of the kids and their parents to know that they do have rights, because we have a lot of people that also say, what is the Department of Education doing? I don't see them doing anything. And it's like their resources are numerous on the Department of Education's website, but the problem is you're not going to have your schools that are going to tell you about them. In fact, I have literally heard schools tell one parent here in Indiana that their school district was the one that made the final decision in the law, and their policies were law, not Indiana.
Tammy, one of the things that we touched upon, but I want to get back to it, the movie Bullying, is that the movie?
Bully.
Bully. Tell us about the movie, first of all, what it is briefly, and where one can see it.
You can see the movie right now again over at the AMC Showplace in East Washington Square Mall. And they have one showing at the current moment. However, on Monday night, there's going to be a special showing. And if you want tickets to the other 4 theater rooms besides the one that Wish TV has purchased, call the theater, talk to Laura, and tell her I sent you and that I recommended that you get the ticket. And they will help you with that. That evening is going to be an awesome special viewing. We've actually worked on sending out information to all the township schools to try to get students to go to see this. They could have gone and saw it for free. Some of the school districts are trying to go see it for free through Donors Choose. We have I have a group of 80 kids at Northwest High School, and these kids are amazing, and I'm excited that they get to go. However, transportation is an issue because they're not wanting to let them use the bus. Lee Hirsch, who is the director and producer of the movie, will be coming in on Sunday, and he will be there.
And now let's go to the movie.
Yeah.
It looks at five cases.
Families, and that's what he's going to talk about, is those families. And Kurt Smalley is one of them.
And so it's Kirk's family and his son's death is part of that movie.
Right.
So if you get a chance, I would imagine you can also possibly get a pay-per-view or something online. I mean, that's...
They do not have it online yet. It's going out limitedly. There are, it is now also showing in Richmond. And in fact, Richmond Community Schools sent 1,400 students to that theater to watch this movie on like 27 buses. Fort Wayne has one theater, and my two of my volunteers, one of which is Dondi Ehrlich. She is my chapter leader up near the Fort Wayne area, and Jessica are going to be doing actually a Q&A up in the Fort Wayne theater. And you know, it covers those issues that really give you a first-hand look, because they actually had cameras that they filmed on the buses. They pulled the cameras from the bus to show situations, one of which is very emotionally, you know, shows a child who had just had enough that she actually took a gun on that bus and took it out.
And that seems to be something different today than it was when I was a kid. I mean, I was even living in the country. People had guns every place.
Oh yeah, we used to have gun racks on the back of. I know people who had gun racks on the back of the trucks.
I don't recall anyone ever bringing a firearm to school, and yet that seems to be very prevalent today. Because we're getting close to the end here, I wanted to address just like the public image that's given of bullying. And I know that I was going over different stories. Governor Chris Christie was addressing an audience, and this is the end of 2010. An audience member asked how Christie could cut taxes for the rich at the same time as he hit working class people with such things as transit fare hikes. Christie invited the guy up on stage for a conversation. That consisted of Christie, who was much larger than the guy, pointing his finger in the guy's face, telling him that he was wrong, he shouldn't question him about what he was doing on taxes. The guy standing there for 2 or 3 minutes. Finally, Christie's done, and the guy said, "Can I have the microphone?" And Christie said no. And Christie had brought the guy up on stage with 2 state troopers, had him taken off the stage with 1. That's an image that people get, and Christie is really praised right now by a lot of people because he's such a gutsy guy. That's just being a bully. He's the governor of the state. He's got the state police
That's
there.
what kids are seeing, and kids. We were talking about that earlier. That's what kids are seeing, and when they also see it on campaign ads, like my own son, he said, "Why would I want to vote for somebody who's doing something that's so negative in campaign ads when all I'm seeing is them bullying them?" And that's exactly what they're projecting.
Well,
Not to say I just, anything bad about him. I don't know him or the situation, but that's true.
2 other real quick ones. One was from Howell, Michigan. A school teacher was reprimanded for telling a student that his anti-gay comments were unacceptable, as unacceptable as the Confederate flag belt that the kid was wearing. And at the time, Howell, Michigan was the home of the leader of the Ku Klux Klan. I thought that was somewhat ironic. But finally, bullying includes behaviors like Mitt Romney's, where Mitt grabbed a kid, others held him down on the ground in prep school, and cut off his hair.
And is this confirmed at all?
Yes, it was. 5 individuals who were students in that school at the time confirmed it.
Wow.
And that wasn't just some little prank. There was an implication that the kid was gay, and that would have been back in 1965 or 64, when the prejudice was much more vile and rampant. And I have to look at that and say, Romney didn't remember it. Or said he didn't remember it, and then said, well, it was a prank, and tried to blow it off. Well, first of all, to deny that you remember something that's battery, holding somebody down and then using something like shears that just could be turned real quick and poke out an eye, and then not being punished for it, and years later saying, well, that's just a childhood prank. That's crap.
That goes down to, 2 interesting things that go with that. One, it comes to the mentality of kids are going to be kids. And 2, it comes to bring this very important point, because kids right now, parents right now, people in legislation, people in society, period, need to remember that stuff can come back and haunt you years later. And what these kids are putting out there need to be told that, you may want to run for president someday.
Well, but also it means that I'm wondering about the brain of the person that would be president and years later doesn't see any problem with that type of behavior.
Exactly.
We're at the end of this show. I'd like to thank Kirk Smalley for joining us by phone, and Tammy Moon has been our guest today. Tammy, thanks for being on. Paul, as always, it's fun, although a lot of your ideas are bogus.
Hey, that's bullying.
No, it's the truth. Besides, it called me names earlier. Thank you very much for tuning in. Next week, we're going to be discussing Keynesian economics and the Austrian School of Economics. I'm going to wade into that topic with Paul. We have a couple of guests who are lined up for that, and I hope that we are able to go back to a place where we filmed the show on the smoking ban. So thanks very much for joining us. here at Civil Discourse Now, we've had Civil Discourse. Take care. Have a good week.